All right, Boker Tov. Thank you for being here at a different time. We're a little bit earlier than usual. Today we learn, as always, for the Ilu Nishmat Avigdor Chai Avram Ben Rachel Tzvi Meir Tzvi and Rachel. Oh my gosh, Rachel Leah. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to put on the screen because I have the luxury of having everything on the computer right at the moment. I'll put on the next mission we're going to be dealing with. Oh, it'd be nice if I put the right slide. Okay.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Hey, good morning, Ellie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the Mishnah and just translate it into English as you see on the screen. And then I'm going to go back and talk about those items that are in red, in bold. Rabbi Shimon Omer. This is the again, I've given up identifying what chapter and all. I just chapter 2, but Mishnah 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It's one of those in your book, but right now I just have it on the screen. Rabbi Shimon Omer. Rabbi Shimon said, you should be exceedingly careful about saying Shema and about davening with tefillah. And when you do daven, don't make your davening automatic routine. But rather you should try to daven for compassion and plead to Hashem from the heart. For it says, I'm not going to get into the pasuk. I'll just read the English. For he is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in kindness, and renouncing punishment. There are commentaries about why they bring this particular pasuk as a proof text. I'm not interested personally in getting into it right now. And the last statement, it says in red, in your own eyes, don't you see yourself as a Rasha, as a wicked person. Okay, that's the translation of the Mishnah. So what we need to do is talk about a whole bunch of things. And what I've been doing in these last few Mishnayot is first just taking a look at the basic meaning, what it seems to tell us, and then to go back and talk about it on a deeper level. So if we look at the first words, in red, you should be very careful. It doesn't just mean careful like it says in English, it means exceedingly careful in Shema and Tefillah. So the basic meaning could be a few things. Number one, don't ever skip Shema. Don't ever, now we say Tefillah, remember, when we talk in Tefillah, for those of you in the davening class, the Tefillah class, you know, Tefillah means specifically Shmona Esrei. It's pretty much ever, it's called the Amidah, it's called the Tefillah. Doesn't mean generally daven, it means specifically Shmona Esrei. It says you be very careful. So one way to look at this Mishnah in this statement is to say that a person should always be careful to say Shema properly. They should say Shmona Esrei properly. They should never, God forbid, skip the davening. It also means to be punctual, be there on time. If davening for shacharit starts, this is again my pet peeve I've mentioned about 500 or 600 times. If davening starts for shacharit at 6 o'clock, coming in at 6 o'clock and starting to have to put on your tefillin, you're already late. So it means coming in before that to get ready. People prepare themselves to go on a trip. People prepare themselves to go out to a bus. They'll leave, a few minutes early instead of running for a bus. You go to a doctor, you go to a lawyer, you go to a practitioner of some sort, go to a therapist, whatever it may be. You get there on time. You try to get there early. Same thing should be true for tefillah. And that's one of the meanings of this Zaheve Zahir B'Kriyat Shema Tefillah. What does it mean? Al ta'as tefillatcha keva. Don't make your davening routine. So we're going to look at 2 slides. The first one says as follows. There's a Mishnah, and this particular Mishnah Avot is connected to this Mishnah in Pirke Avot. I just want to look back at one thing. Second, yeah, okay. Rabbi Lezer Omer, the Mishnah in Masachet Brachot. Ha'oset tfilato keva. If a person makes his tefillah routine, ain't tfilato tachanunim. His tefillah is not considered compassionate. What does that mean? He's not davening from the heart. He's not really saying in a way that Hashem would be inclined to want to listen to his tefillah. But let's look even a little bit deeper than that. There is a pasuk that almost always when this Mishnah that I'm learning now with you and the one in Brachot that I just mentioned are taught, these psukim in Sefer Yeshayahu are mentioned in tandem. This is Yeshayahu talking to Bnei Yisrael. Vayomer Adonai, Yan ki nigash am hazeh, befivu v'sfata. Sorry, this is Hashem is saying this through the Navi. Hashem said, Yam ki nigash la'amazeh, v'fivu v'svatav keep doing it. Because the people have approached me with their mouths, honored me only with their lips, v'libo richak mimeni, but their heart was very far from me. Vati yiratam oti, and they worshiped me, they feared me. Mitzvat anashim melumada, people who were just doing it like out of rote. Therefore, then there's the punishment or something that may go with it. But the most important word here in this pasuk is this. Milumada. It's actually supposed to be a mapike, it's supposed to be a dot, not hey, but don't worry about it. Now I know you're all concerned. In any case, what does that mean? That the Navi Yeshayahu is castigating the people because when it came time to pray to God, now the idea of organized prayer sorry, in the time of Yeshayahu was obviously not the same that we have today. It was different, but still, when people would daven to Hashem, the complaint that God is giving is they're only saying it here. They're saying it on their lips, in their mouth, and words. But as far as from here, from the heart, it's not happening. And it's only melumada, which means it's being done out of rote. It's being done because they always know. They always say it and just repeating the same words. Unfortunately, I would gather or guess 99.9%, maybe it's too much, 99.2% of people, I'm making the number up, when they daven, at some point, they're on autopilot. Okay, they're not necessarily thinking about the words they're saying. It's natural. But if that's how it is always, that's not good. It's not good because Hashem tells us very clearly. Now imagine, I've used this example between spouses, a husband and wife. And the wife says, I love you. You know, you're the most important thing to me. And I'm so happy we have our lives together. And the husband turns around and says, love you too. Right? She says she's expressing her desire to show her love for her husband, to say how much she appreciates him. And then he turns around and says, love you. Or, yeah, I love you too. Okay. No, just mouthing the words there, or it's a birthday. They take a gift, happy birthday, throw the gift on the table. It's a very big difference between how you say something when you mean it, how you say something just because you feel that that's what the person wants to hear. So that's one of the other reasons that one of the other basic meanings of this Mishnah. When we take a look back, we said, Altas tfilatcha keva. Don't make your tefillah keva. Don't make it rote. Don't make it routine because it's dry, it's boring. It's not what Hashem wants. He tells us very clearly. The last statement in this Mishnah, again, looking at just on the surface level, don't look at yourself as being a Russian. Why? Why not? Maybe that's a good thing to do. We're going to talk about that shortly. So the simplest answer is to why not to see yourself as a Rasha. Again, Rasha is the bottom of the pile. You have a tzaddik, you have a person who's saintly, you have a benoni, an average person, and you have a Rasha at the bottom of the pile. Because if you see yourself as a Rasha, it will cause you dikaon, it causes you to be depressed. You won't daven. And if you do daven, like, why am I wasting my breath? I know plenty of people, unfortunately, who used to daven and don't daven because there are things that are going on in their lives. And really, when it should be exactly the opposite, well, it should be davening more. Things are not going well, and they're not getting what they want. They don't get their parnasa, they don't get the shidduch. God doesn't care about me anymore. Anyways, besides which, he probably doesn't hear my tefillah because I'm a rush. I've heard people say that I'm a rush. I'm an evil person. So what happens with that causes a person to spiral out of control. It can become, first of all, on a spiritual level, it can be very depressing. Like, I'm a Russia, so God couldn't care less about me. And that helps to, from your side, start to break that connection with Hashem. And even if you do mitzvot, you might think like, okay, great, I did a mitzvah. But look at all the horrible, horrible things I've done in my life. Again, we've talked about this idea of sachar va'onesh, talked about the idea of reward and punishment. That reward is never overlooked. Punishment can be. Various steps are involved in that, but reward never. There were, and we know that there were Malchei Yisrael, there were kings of the Jewish people who were terrible people, but in some cases reigned a very long time. And they say because they did certain things very good, or very well rather, and they're rewarded for that in this world. But what does it mean? If you shouldn't be a Russia in your eyes, does that mean you should look at yourself as a tzaddik? Oh, yeah, I'm perfect. Don't buy into what your mom may have said to you as a child, which is, oh, he's my little tzaddik. He's the best, most perfect person in the world. Hopefully, no parent really says that about their child, because you don't want to say that they're perfect. You never want to say that. There's only one thing that's perfect in this world, and that's Hashem. But you should be aware of your chesronot. You should be aware of your failings and where you're strong and where you're weak, but it can't bring you down. I'm making this up now. Let's say, for example, I'm really no good at brachot. Baruch Hashem, I'm very careful. But let's just say I stink. I don't do it too well. So, and I'm good at it. I daven well, and I learn. But brachot, okay, I kind of push off. So I can't say, well, I don't do that, so I might as well not do the other stuff. Because then I say I'm already a Russia when it comes to brachot. I might as well be a Russia with everything else. But you need to be aware. Why do you need to be aware of your failings? Because you need to improve them. And improving them makes you, even if a person, God forbid, is at the status of a Russia, by improving, you're no longer at that point. You're moving yourself up. And I'm talking again, obviously, in a very surface level. But now let's go back and look at this Mishne again with different eyes. And let's talk about it from the perspective of something, a little bit deeper. Months and months ago, when we talked about an introduction to Pirke Avot, we said that there's a unique status or unique aspect to Pirke Avot over all other Mishnayot in the 6 sections of the Mishnah. And that is that the Pirke Avot is moral and ethical lessons, which why you'll see also that the translation of the title is sometimes called Ethics of Our Fathers. And not halacha. There's no halacha to be found in Pirke Avot, and yet here we're being told, you should be careful about Shema, say it on time, make sure you say the words in davening. So that's not halacha, so it seems to be sticking out. So there's a commentary, which I've mentioned before, the Tiferet Yisrael. It says, what does it mean to be zahir? What does it mean to be careful? It does not mean, like I said originally, to come on time, make sure you daven, to make sure it means your kavanah, your thought process. If a person goes to shul, or they daven at home, and they say Shemona Esrei, and their mind is wandering, they daven. They still said the words. But when you say it with kavanah, now what does kavanah mean? And the simplest form it means, which means intention, you know the meaning of the words, or you read it in Hebrew and look at the English, or you just daven in English, or French, or Spanish, whatever your language is. But he's saying, Tiferet Yisrael said that that the importance of kavanah, the strength of kavanah is so important that the Tana is telling us here to be careful about intent and what the word means. Now, why specifically Shema and Tefillah? Why Shema and Shemona Esrei? We say a lot of things in daven, because that's really the basis of our Judaism. The Kriyat Shema is the concept of Ol Malchut Shamayim, where we accept upon ourselves the yoke of heaven. Tefillah, i.e. Shemona Esrei, we know is also the critical, is the Tefillah without Shemona Esrei is, it's like going to a restaurant to eat. You sit down, they give water, and then you ask for the check and you leave. You didn't eat. There's nothing there. Tefillah, davening without Shemona Esrei is not davening. So it's the idea is now we've accepted upon ourselves Ol Malchut Shamayim, the yoke of heaven. Shemona Esrei shows that we have taken this upon ourselves because we only daven to Hashem, and only Hashem can answer our tefillot and our requests and our needs, which is that central portion of Shemona Esrei. Again, it's the Tiferet Yisrael. There's another possibility. With tefillah. Let me see real quick if I can find this, and I'll put this other thing on the screen. Just give me a second. I actually wanted to put this up and I forgot. Whoops. Sometimes my fingers move faster than they should. Shulchan Aruch. Orach Chaim. Aleph. Okay, let me reshare the screen now. Here we go. The very first siman, very first sentence in the entire Shulchan Aruch says as follows: Yitgaber ke'ari, a person should overcome his laziness, so to speak, like a lion. La'amod baboker, to get up in the morning, la'avodat bor'o, to serve his creator. Shehehu me'orer hashachar. He should be the one to wake up the dawn. Now, I'm going to tell you two things what that means. Number one is the simple form, which means get up, you wake up, get out of bed, get your day started, go daven, go do what you have to do. And then at that point, you're being zahir tefillah. You're also being careful with tefillah. That's the one meaning. Okay, so that's one of the meanings of this idea. The other idea is, which I heard a number of years ago, these words here, hu me'orer hashachar. What does it mean he should wake up the dawn? He should be the one who wakes up the dawn. So there is was a man who was known as the Chalban. Chalban, which means the milkman, was a big Kabbalist who died about, I'm going to guess about 5 years ago. It could be less. And he said like this, what does it mean? He should wake up the dawn. Gemara tells us, and this is very apropos for right now, the time period we find ourselves in history, hopefully. Gemara tells us that there were two people, more than two people, that were standing and looking out towards the sky. It was still nighttime. They're looking towards the horizon, and the dawn broke. Right? It's called Amud HaShachar in Hebrew. And one rabbi turned to the other and said, "This is the same way that the Geula will come. Kim'ah, kim'ah. Slowly, slowly, the dawn will come. The dawn meaning, in this case, the dawn of Geula." So the Chalban said, by us getting up and being zahir and getting to shul or getting to daven, even though it's not in shul, but starting our day when we wake up, the avodat borot, to serve our Creator, we are also me'orer hashachar. We're awakening this idea of the shachar of the geula that helps to bring that about. Okay, so that's that idea. I'm going to put the so I don't need to have the screen share on for this part now. That's another possibility. I do need it. Sorry. For the next slide, that'd be helpful. Okay. For those of you who learned Tanya, learned it with me or learned it by yourselves or with others, you will note that there is a very, very gigantic contradiction between this Mishnah and a Gemara, actually a Braita, in the Gemara Masechet Nida, which is what starts off the whole book of Tanya. Book of Tanya written by the Alter Rebbe, by the Admor HaZaken, which I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. I found out that someone in my family married into someone who's a direct descendant, which was kind of cool. Tanya, we learned in a Braita in the end of third parak of Masechet Nida. When a soul is about to come into this world, they say to the soul, Mashbi'im oto, they make him take an oath. Tihi tzadik v'al tihi rasha. Be a tzaddik, don't be a rasha. Afil kol alam kulo omrim lo tzaddik ata. Even if the whole world tells him he's a tzaddik, heye b'necha kirasha. You should see yourself as a rasha. Now, this one sentence, along with another introductory pasuk, which the Alter Rebbe puts in the opening of his book, take many chapters of building information before he can actually for us to understand what he's talking about when he brings this particular Braita, and what does it mean that it says in the introduction, also in the Shar HaSefer, in the beginning of the book, that it's that it's exceedingly easy to do the things in the Torah and to do the mitzvot. Again, you need to learn Tanya to understand this. But right now, let's just take the very plain meaning of this Braita without looking to anything deeper. It specifically says, be in your eyes, you should see yourself as a rasha. Yet our Mishnah just said that you shouldn't. Look at the words again. Slightly different. Doesn't say the same words. Here it says, don't be wicked to yourself, in front of yourself. And here the Alter Rebbe says, quoting the Braita, it says, Heye be'einecha, be in your eyes like a rasha. So already we see that there's a slight difference. So what is really going on? So we have to talk about this for a few minutes to understand. The way I originally translated, which still is valid, is that you should not see yourself as a rasha, because then you are going to, it'll be a downward spiral. It'll feed on itself. When very commonly when a teacher starts a school year and is going to start with a new class, let's say they're going to take over Kita Yud Aleph, grade 11, and the teacher who had the kids in grade 10, the two teachers meet to share information. They can understand more about each kid. I rarely did it. Only with rare exceptions for specific kids I needed to know certain things. I rarely did. I don't want a teacher telling me this kid doesn't know how to learn. I don't want a teacher telling me this kid is brilliant. I don't want a teacher telling me this kid is whatever, because then already in my head, that's what that child is. Okay? I've already established in my head, oh, the kid is, I'll say lazy. This kid is disruptive. I'll find that out for myself, and I'll learn how to see how to teach that child directly. When you teach one-on-one, is a little bit different because you want to know what you need to work with, what you work on. If I have a student who's always told himself that he doesn't know how to learn, he doesn't have a head, he can't accomplish anything, then my job, so to speak, is making him understand or her that they can and to grow. So perception is very powerful. I'll give you one more example of where perception falls in. We had quite more than a few weeks ago. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu in Parshat Shalach sends spies into the land of Israel, 12, one from each tribe. And when they come back, or not even when they come, at some point, it says that the spies made a comment that the people who lived there were giants. Try this, remember. We were like grasshoppers in our eyes, and so too we appeared to them. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means that their perception, they saw themselves as little people. And therefore, the people who talked to them, or rather saw them, meaning the giants, also saw them as little people. The perception you have of yourself is what you tend to broadcast. And therefore, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So therefore, Al-Tihi Rasha Beinech Bifnei Atzmecha is how I originally translated, which still holds, but still doesn't answer the question of this apparent contradiction, which we call, right? So how do we fix this? So Al-Tihi Rasha Bifnei Atzmecha means never see yourself as so far gone that you can't do tshuva. If you see yourself like that, then you are definitely not going to be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish. Another possibility, don't do an Aveira in private, thinking no one's going to see you. Al tihi rasha, don't act as a rasha, bifnei atzmecha, when the only one, you're alone in the house. Who's going to see me? So what? I'll do something I shouldn't do, right? So when it says in the Braita, which I quoted on the other screen, Tehei Rasha Beinecha, you should see yourself as a Rasha, is a completely different meaning. Again, we have 100 possible ways of explaining this. I'm only giving one, maybe more. Than what this says over here. This says, don't, according to one opinion, don't see yourself, don't act as a Rasha when it's only you by yourself. That's another possibility. The Midrash Shmuel says, don't think that being a Rasha only affects you. Because if you act in an evil way, Lashon Hara or other things, or you do things that could be influential to others in a bad way, it's not, don't think Al-Tihi Rasha Bifnei Atzmecha, don't think that by you being a Rasha, I mean, but a person being a Rasha, it only affects them. There are hashlachot, there are consequences for other people. Probably the easiest thing I can come up with as far as a mashal, as a parable, is a drunk driver. A person who drinks to excess and then gets behind the wheel of a car, unfortunately, we see happens a lot, causes tremendous, devastating consequences. Unfortunately, it's usually the drunk driver that walks away unscathed, and his victims either hurt terribly or, God forbid, killed. Person I'm using that doesn't mean someone who drinks is a Rasha. Someone who drinks and gets behind the wheel, as far as I'm concerned, is a Rasha. Definitely. You might as well give him a loaded gun and tell him to start shooting at a crowd. There is no difference. But don't think that your actions that are negative, that are bad, that may be negative actions that even could make you a category of a Rasha, it's just affecting you. It's not. Not only is it going to affect other people, maybe directly in what they're doing in their lives, but in a spiritual sense, when we see ourselves as well part of one neshama, so to speak, which is a Kabbalistic idea of what was called Shvirat HaKelim in the beginning of time with Adam HaRishon, which, if you know what I'm talking about, great. If not, it's a very long discussion. Then you're affecting me. You're affecting my next door neighbors. You're affecting my family. I'm affecting yours. When we do things that are mamash Russia, reshut, really evil actions, not doing, quote, just an aver, which also has an effect. But again, how do we reconcile these two statements? And you should be you should see yourself as a Rasha, besides what I've already just said. Another quick answer would be is never to see yourself as unredeemable, or that your essence is that you're Rasha. Al tihi rasha bifnei atzmecha means don't see yourself as the essence of you as a Rasha. What does this say here? Heyeh be'einecha rasha. You should see yourself as a Rasha, not to feel it, not to internalize it, not to make yourself feel that this is your essence, but at least so that you should not fall into the trap when people say to you, oh, he's such a tzaddik. I'm not such a big deal. I'm really nothing, right? You see yourself that way. Doesn't mean you internalize it. Doesn't mean that. And this one means that. This is the other half of that coin. Don't internalize it. That becomes your atzmut, becomes yourself, it becomes who you are. That's another possible meaning behind it. Okay, so we're going to stop here. I told you it's going to be a half hour today. I need to take off the video for a moment.